halfway
an
point.
iconic visit today. Absolutely iconic.
Now you might be wondering why I got so excited about wheel ruts. Now that's what I call...
Yes, Miranda. Oh, Miranda's mum.
as there is right here, and it is because it is so... Well, it's a new jumper.
Oh, no, it's not a jumper.
It's not a new jumper. What do I call it?
It's a tank top.
Now, any serious walker... to go that way.
Look, we're English. Let's call it what we would call it. And that's
What's that then? I'm confused.
Tank top.
Tank top. It's a tank top. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely confused. Those the rain would go away. That's not a moon.
That's
a pair of
space
socks.
station. Oh, you see.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring Walking the Wall.
Oh, yay.
Now, look, first of all, welcome back to our summer of stitching.
Yes.
It's very exciting. Oh my goodness, there's all sorts of wonderful activities going on. And you, of course, last time joined us. And thank you all so much for your wonderful comments. My goodness.
Yep.
It's honestly, it's gone a bit nuts, which is just really lovely.
Oh, right, brilliant.
It's so lovely that you enjoyed. Those were some pretty stonking colourways, weren't they? In my favourite colourways.
Yes.
Sirius and Hogwarts at dusk.
You seem to enjoy the speckling. Who doesn't like a bit of speckling?
Exactly. You can't beat a perfectly speckled skein of yarn. Oh no. But also as well, there's been lots of comments and excitement around that lovely project bag which Kay showed you with a lovely hand embroidered home.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Piece on the front.
I know, I never know what to call it.
That is, of course, it's the next sort... No, it's not the next big event in our Summer of Stitching, because, of course, I suppose the next big event in our Summer of Stitching... Well, actually, the release of the latest Platinum patterns already happened.
It has just happened. Yeah.
So the next big event is probably the tinsel socks.
Oh, yes. Yes, I showed you those last time. They're in testing now.
And also, as well... The cowl too.
Oh, the Christingle Mingle. Yeah,
yes.
the two patterns that I'm releasing towards the end of this month now, isn't it? We're in June.
Exactly.
Towards the end of June, so that it's in time for our Christmas in July knit-along.
Which is our big Summer of Stitching knit-along
which
this
is
year.
for everyone to join in with.
Yes, and those patterns that Kays mentioned there, the Christingle Mingle and also the tinsel socks, they're available for anyone to buy.
Yes.
Perfect for joining in with our Christmas in July knit-along.
Yes.
But then... the next big event after that is, of course, the start of the Stitchy U, which is where Kay shows you how to make the gorgeous bag. Well, the piece.
Yes.
And you can then use our current
to do whatever
established tutorial series, if you so wish, to then make a bag.
If you want to do that
yes.
with it, yeah.
But yet, that was a big, long kerfuffle, all thanking you very much for your excitement around the last show. Yeah. But my goodness, what a show we have in store for you today.
We have so much to show and talk about today.
Forget all of that. I was born to create a TV series all about Hadrian's Wall. That was my mission in life.
Right.
And today we get to the halfway point.
It's an iconic visit today. Absolutely iconic.
Where we're going today
Yeah.
is the reason probably why the whole series is happening.
Yes.
Because this is the place which we have gone to the most.
Yeah.
That we adore the most.
We actually filmed an episode way back.
Look out for an upcoming favourite places to knit revisited. I'm uncertain when it will come. But what I shall tell you is this. The favourite places to knit revisited will feature us at Housesteads Fort. And that is where we're going today. We're just going to call in at Housesteads Fort and then we're going to set off into the wilderness.
Yes.
In search of King Arthur and Excalibur.
How exciting. Who knew?
You will be able to see us. I think that was back in 2016.
Wow. Because we actually stayed at the farmhouse that's within Housesteads. So when Dan's there, if you do see it, if you look in the background, you'll see some buildings. We stayed in one of those buildings.
It was marvellous. Sadly, the bed wasn't so great.
Oh, the bed was terrible. Do you know what we had to do? There was there was a double room, and then there was 2 single bedrooms, wasn't there? Oh, one of the bedrooms had 2 single beds in, and then one of them had 1 single bed in, and the bed was so bad.
We had to pull it off the bed.
No, we didn't. We got the 2 mattresses.
Right.
The mattress was so terrible.
Yeah.
We got the 2 spare single mattresses and put them on the floor.
Yes.
And
That's right. We slept on the floor.
On mattresses on the floor all week.
Happy days.
Yeah.
But look, it is the most iconic site when it comes to Roman. But what I actually discovered in researching this episode that you're going to see today is it's considered one of the most iconic sites in all of the Roman Empire, which is just... I mean, it's beyond exciting.
It is. The weather actually was pretty ropey, wasn't it?
They've already seen in the outtakes from the start of this episode.
It was pretty dodgy, but I think it actually adds to the atmosphere of the walk.
Do you know what?
You know, rather than it being glorious sun and perfect.
Because that's fine for a bit, but then it gets a bit tedious. What you want is changeable.
It was
lovely for you as viewers.
Yeah.
Not so fun for me trying to film it. But look...
It's England.
Today is a very important episode. A very important episode indeed, because, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Queen.
I'm saluting. You couldn't see.
Yes.
Oh, yes, the Queen's. If you might not know if
Congratulations,
you're not,
Queen.
if you're not in this country, but yeah, it's the Queen's 70th Jubilee this weekend. So she's been reigning queen for 70 years, which is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Yes, I mean it really
amazing.
is. Yeah.
Amazing. She's 96 now, our queen.
Yeah.
And her mobility has gone a bit dodgy the past year, but you know, she's 96.
Yeah.
We can forgive her that, can't we?
And what's sort of weird for me is that my family has a direct link to the Queen's coronation, because my dad sang at the Queen's coronation in Westminster Abbey, which is just bonkers. A huge weekend, really. You know, it is... Is she the longest reigning monarch now?
Yes.
Which is just crazy.
I think she passed that a little bit ago, because I think Queen Victoria wasn't she?
Yeah.
I think so. I think she passed that a few years ago.
What an unbelievable milestone. So there's all sorts of crazy
things
events
going on. We're not doing crazy events at all. I might do an afternoon tea, but you know.
We are, my goodness, we are extremely proud and patriotic of our country. But
absolutely.
We are most definitely not flag-waving patriots.
No. And, you know, street parties and all that business, it's just not us, really. You know, we celebrate in our own kind of way. Yeah. So do whatever you are doing.
Absolutely. You go for it. But I think we are more on the understated.
I'd say that.
Yes.
I think you probably know that about us, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you believe that when it comes to me, subtlety is key?
You wouldn't believe that looking at Dan, but, you know, we're both actually quite shy, sort of private, reserved people.
Very much so.
I love watching all of the sort of ceremony and everything that's going on.
Trooping the colour, you love it.
Trooping the colour, I love Trooping the colour, but, you know, I'd rather watch it than be part of it. Yeah.
But look, there is an event which it's above all of this.
Right.
Because I have the greatest pair of shoes in the history of the world.
I can't believe he's going to tell you about these shoes.
This is so funny. I went out with our daughter Bryony to the shops the other day, and before we went out I was sort of putting my foot forward and like pointing down to them. And I said to her, as we set off, I said, look, if anyone sort of points and looks at us, don't worry, there's nothing wrong, it's just my shoes. Look, would you believe that some years ago we took our lovely daughter Bryony to York to see the Queen because she came to visit.
She did, yeah.
And not us. She came to visit York. And so we went and we saw in York a guy stood near the west end of the Minster in the coolest jacket I've ever seen in my life. This was a Boba Fett jacket made by Adidas.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realise was that Adidas have a deal, and I think it's every anniversary, so every year when it gets to the anniversary of Star Wars, they have a deal to put out a limited run of Star Wars gear. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's the best jacket ever. I'd love to have one of those. But of course you couldn't get them because they're a limited run.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened that like a couple of weeks ago...
No, it was a week ago.
A week ago?
Because it was the anniversary last week.
Yes. Yeah. So I noticed, it just pinged up that there was these shoes, and they're my favourite shoes ever. They are the Adidas Samba shoes. And I couldn't get any like the ones I like anymore. And then it pinged up, there they were, these Adidas Samba shoes, and here they are, look, Kay took a picture. They're perfect for me because they're really soft, they're really comfortable, all of that, but look at them. They're Boba Fett shoes.
They're Boba Fett, it's the Sarlacc pit.
And if you notice those socks, those are Han Solo socks.
Oh, do you know how last time on the show I was looking for a skein of yarn back here? I was like, oh, I'm going to knit Dan the Han Solo socks next. I'd already knit them for him. The reason I couldn't find the skein behind me is because I'd already knit them. He had them on a few days after and I'm like, hang on.
It's marvellous.
I was looking for that yarn the other day. I've already knit those for you.
You finished those quick.
Completely forgot that I'd knit him the socks already. But I do have Obi-Wan here.
Yes.
So Obi-Wan will probably be next. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's enough of that because I want to see what's on our needles.
Oh.
So without further ado, I shall ask Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, okay.
Why do they make me think of Christmas when I look at those?
Well, I don't think they don't really look Christmassy, do they?
No, but for some reason it just makes me think of Christmas.
Are you being funny?
No.
Oh, right, okay. Right.
Oh, did you cast those on Christmas Eve?
Yes, I did.
Ah.
It is now June. These socks were cast on Christmas Eve last year. These were my Christmas Eve socks. Now, this is actually, I think, the first time that I can recall that I've cast on socks on Christmas Eve. And I realise now why I don't cast on a project on Christmas Eve, a Christmas project on Christmas Eve. You know, I love the idea of it, and I know lots of people do this, you know, the cast on socks on Christmas Eve. Little Bobbin started it many years ago, and I know that loads of people join in. And last year I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. So I did. And I loved it for a couple of days. And then it got past Christmas very quickly, and I didn't want to work on them. Because for me...
I don't blame you, I wouldn't want to.
No, when... I mean, again, everybody's different, but for me, once we get past kind of Boxing Day, I'm sort of done with Christmas. And, you know, for me, I like the run-up. So I love December. The whole of December, for me, is Christmas, you know. And yes. I love all of that run-up, those few weeks run-up. But, like I say, once we get past it, I'm past it. I'm done. I want to take the tree down. We don't. We take the tree down usually New Year's Day. But if it was up to me, it'd be down before then, you know. I'm over and I want to move on. So it was no surprise to me at all that this project stalled. This is by no means a reflection on the yarn, because the yarn is blooming gorgeous. I will show you. And I've picked it back up because I just kind of wanted to get my needles cleared a bit for Christmas in July. There's a couple of things I want to cast on.
Do you see?
I know.
How poetic that is.
I know. How crazy is this? But you see, I'm kind of feeling the Christmas in July because, you know, it's before Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't feel like we're now in the after Christmas phase. We're now before Christmas.
That's the beauty of Christmas. As soon as January the 1st comes, it's now before Christmas.
I know, and some people might say, well, think of it that way, that it's before Christmas and you can carry on, but it doesn't. No. It just didn't work for me.
Of course it doesn't.
It still felt too close to Christmas, but by the time we get to July, you know, I'm very happy to start thinking about Christmas. Like I said, I've been trying to clear my needles, and this is one of the projects that I wanted off my needles, and I'm getting close. So this is the sock that I finished quite some time ago. I actually finished the first sock, I think, in early January. I persevered through, and I thought, right, if I finish the first sock and just get the second one cast on, I've more chance of working on it. Well, clearly that didn't happen. It's now June. But this was the finished sock. Oh, look at the yarn.
It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. I just made up a texture pattern.
It's perfect colour choices too.
And I shared this texture pattern with our patrons in our Facebook group, I think it was. And a few people joined me in this texture. It's just knit pearls. It's like an offset 2x2 rib with a garter row in between. But it just held my, it just held my interest. And although this yarn is quite busy, so it's probably not the most appropriate yarn for it. You can still see it, I think. But isn't the yarn just gorgeous, the pink yarn?
Yeah.
The yarn is from, I think the lady's name is Beth, isn't it? Beth at Beehive Yarns. And it was a Christmas colourway called Tacky Tree. So tacky, if you don't know what that word means, because it is an English word, I think, it means kind of in bad taste. So what it's implying is that, people who have a bright pink Christmas tree decorated with all these speckly colours, it might look a bit tacky. I would disagree, because how can anything pink and sparkly and shiny be tacky? It just,
I'm not certain you'd go for a pink shiny Christmas tree though.
Well, I might in a certain circumstance. Not as my main tree probably, but a little tiny tree. So yeah, I finished this first sock ages ago. And I used a contrast. I think this colour, it was the 20 gram mini I got in an advent calendar, Down Sheepy Lane advent calendar a few years ago. I just thought that the colour went really well, because there are red speckles in that and purple speckles. So I'm now on with the second sock, and I think I've got about 20 rounds to go, and then I'll be on the toe. So here's the second sock, look, and look how close I am, look how close I am. I can't tell you how long this sock has taken me. I keep picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down. And I've been working on it again for the past few weeks, really. Thinking, I'll zip through that second sock. Because normally I knit the second sock quicker than the first sock, because I just want them to be finished. For whatever reason, whether it's just because I've got that feeling of it's dragged on so long, I just don't want to work on it. But I really want them finished because they're beautiful socks and it would be lovely to have them. Has anyone else got Christmas cast-ons still lingering? What do you do? Do you hold on to them? Because I did think at the time, well, what I'll do is I'll leave it until November and then I'll knit the second sock because I want to do it then. But the problem is I've left it so long that it just feels like, it's just a little bit of a chore, I don't want to knit that second sock. So I don't know, what do you do if you've got sort of lingering projects that are out of season like that? Because I tend to knit, like I'll get Christmassy sort of summer and autumn and I'll want to knit Christmassy things then. I never really want to knit summery things, so that's never an issue. But like things for spring, I think I'll want to start in January. It's sort of the season that I tend to knit. But yeah, I'm nearly done now with these. I'm doing the magic loop. These needles are Addies, I believe. Yeah, it's the Addie lace. And these ones are 2.5mm. And it's a lovely knit. And like I said, the yarn is gorgeous. What I really love about this yarn, I haven't got a massive amount left because I stole some out of the middle to put into something else. And I forget what, it was probably a blanket. So I've not got, there's still probably 30 grams or so left there. But what I'm really loving about this yarn is that both socks look the same in terms of the way that the speckles are distributed. And I think that's just brilliant. If I showed you both socks, look, they look the same, don't they? The intensity of colour over the two socks looks the same. And that's quite often not the case. You do often see socks where the second sock is a paler shade or it's got less speckles or whatever, and that's just the dye method. I'm not keen on that, so to have them look exactly the same like that over both socks, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, top-notch dye job there, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, I am going to finish these Christmas socks. They're going to be finished really soon. They'll be off my needles and it's another project ticked off and I'll be closer to being ready for Christmas in July.
I like that, that's nice.
Yeah, I like
Most
that.
people would do a whole cup, wouldn't they? I can't think of many times that I've seen, I'm sure it's loads of people do it. But
What did I do? I think I just did 2 rounds.
Do loads of
Yeah, I
people do that?
did. I've seen people. What people tend to do is they'll just cast on in a contrast colour,
Right.
and then go straight into the rib, and that gives a really tiny amount of contrast. I cast on and did 2 rounds of
Yeah.
rib, and then changed colour, and I think that gives a bit more definition of the contrast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I just decided to do the heel all in the same colour because I love the yarn so much, and just do a contrast toe.
yeah, it's
So
more
I think
framed,
it's really sweet, yeah.
which is really nice, I think.
And luckily I wrote everything down of what I did because I wouldn't have remembered, all the things like heel turn and all that business.
It's really interesting. I just don't think that way at all.
Do you know?
I don't know why, but there'll be lots of people at home who are probably looking as well, maybe like me, and thinking, I would never have thought of doing that, because I really wouldn't. I would just think, oh right, okay, it's a contrast cuff, so I do the cuff in that colour, and then I change it to the next one. And then it's interesting, isn't it, how when you see something like that, you start to think then it potentially could start to fire off your own types of creativity, because I suppose what you could do is, if you wanted to be different, you could do a few rows in a contrast, then a few rows in the main colour.
You could stripe it, couldn't you?
You could stripe the cuff.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty doing a striped cuff. I've never done that before.
It'd be super fun.
Yeah.
You could stripe the cuff, and also maybe you could stripe the toe.
Well, the toe would be trickier, wouldn't it? Because of the decreases. It'd get a bit faffy, I think.
Yeah.
It would get a bit faffy, yeah.
But it's fun, isn't it? How
a striped cuff would be nice.
People talk a lot about inspiration, don't they? And like I would never, like I've just said, I would never have thought of doing that. And then suddenly by seeing that, you think, oh, well, it's like someone's giving you permission. And it's strange because there's no rules. You can do whatever you want anytime, can't you? But I suppose we're all creative in different ways. And when it comes to colours and things, I tend to follow rather than lead. And I'm perfectly happy with that. I certainly fancy trying that.
Yeah, I love playing around with colour.
Yeah, definitely.
Fun. So, Dan Jones.
Yes.
Oh, what's on your needles?
Well, it's a new jumper.
Oh, no, it's not a jumper.
It's not a new jumper. What do I call it?
It's a tank top.
It's a new tank top.
That's what I would call it. A lot of people would call it a vest.
It's a new vest.
But it's a tank top.
It's a new tank top.
Look, we're English. Let's call it what we would call it. And that's
What's that then? I'm confused.
Tank top.
Tank top. It's a tank top. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely confused. Why can't we just have one word for things?
I know. Why can't we?
Why is it that, we'll decide, oh no, we're going to call it this, and we'll call it this?
I know. I don't know.
Can we all just pick one word and stick with it?
And I discovered recently that there's a word in English, right? And it's a word I've heard said. Where did we hear it? I think we were watching a Star Trek or something. But I've also heard it in something else. And someone said in Star Trek, oh, we're going to launch a buoy. And I'd heard this before, and I was like, I don't know. But I just asked you, didn't I, the other day? I said, what's a buoy? And you said, oh, it's a boy. I said, you're kidding, it's the same word. Because we would call, like, you see them in the ocean the most, don't you? Like a beacon thing that bounces around with a light on.
Yeah.
Like a warning type thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we would call it a buoy, B-U-O-Y.
Yeah.
But you said, oh, it's the same thing, but it's just called a buoy. And I was like, you're kidding.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times, and now I know what it means.
The buats drive around the boys.
What's the buat? Oh, a boat. No, because that's spelt differently. That's B-O-A-T. Boy is B-U-O-Y.
Liffey buat.
Stop it. It's just the differences, isn't it, in pronunciations? And I just thought it meant an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, now I know what it is.
Crazy.
Crazy language thing.
So I got rid of the eternity. I hope that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called. It's just too confusing.
Yes.
And, well, look.
We ditched.
Basically, what happened was
project.
I was perfectly happy to continue knitting it. Kay decided that I shouldn't.
Yeah,
For a lot of reasons.
We spoke about it before, but I didn't like the way the yarn was knitting up. It was
Rico Essentials.
Rico Essentials.
Yeah. Anyway.
Something Aran, but it just looked really like worn.
Yeah. Very quickly, and you don't want
very
that,
quickly.
No.
And I don't like hand knitted jumpers that look all bubbly and worn. And yeah, I will debubble them and all that, but you don't want to be doing that when it's brand new.
No.
If it's brand new, I want it to look brand new.
Yeah, and also as well, the yarn wasn't good.
It wasn't very nice to knit with, was it?
No, and so, you know, when Kay said perhaps you should get rid of that and do something else, initially I did fight back.
You did.
I did.
You did.
But then I quickly stopped fighting because I was quite happy to not knit it. So
because I gave you my alternative suggestion, which you relished the thought of.
Yeah, well, Kay's decided that
It's going to be fabulous.
Kay's decided that she's prepared to wear Lopey over the top of a shirt, and I suspect that's probably because of the fact that you tried on mine and probably realised that it's not as bad when it's over the top of something. No,
it's fine. And what I really love about Let Lopey is I love the way it knits up in colour work, and I love how light it is.
You do forget that you've got it on. Yeah. Which is really great. I've never worn in my life a jumper like it. So it's really cool that Kay sort of thought, okay, do you know what, I'm going to give this a go. So she went looking. I went looking. And found this. Yeah. Stacker? Stacker. I'm presuming it's called Stacker. But we're maybe saying it wrong. It's by the same lady who designed the Ridari. Yeah. And also everything else that I've knitted. Yeah, that's what I did. I went and looked on Ravelry at her designs and found this. And it looked perfect. You know, it's got some colour work, it's V-neck, I really like V-neck. And my idea is that I'm going to wear this over the top of like a white collared shirt, long sleeved white collared shirt. So the shirt will just peek out the bottom, and then I'll wear some dark jeans, and I think that will look really nice, won't it? You know, in the autumn, I think I'm going to look super like cool and trendy. I said trendy. The other thing is that this also came with the pattern. Oh yeah, I know. I've looked at this and I could change out those letters. Oh, right. And I could write anything. I don't want that though. No, I don't, but that's quite fun. I don't know what this means, but it had another option to do that. I don't know what that means. But it seems to say words or de paroles. We've no idea. Words or paroles. I don't really know what that means. No clue. It must mean something. I don't really like writing on things because it gives people an opportunity to stare at you, doesn't it? They're like, oh, what does that say on their jumper? Yeah, it draws the eye and potentially it stops you appreciating the whole garment rather than because you do, don't you, when you see writing you do tend to sort of look at the writing. So anyway, cast on, which is very exciting, and I'm not using the square needles. I'm using the round needles, and the reason why I'm not using the square needles, I'm not saying I'm not going to use the square needles, but I just had all the right sized round needles already in my bag. So yeah, and I'm just copying exactly the needles which I used for the Ridari, because that's what Kay tried on, and I've also matched the stitch count as well. You know, the cast on number. It all sort of made sense. Because I don't want it form fitting because I'm going to have a shirt on underneath. So it wants to be slightly sort of loose. Yeah. So anyway, here it is. Look at the colour. So done the full rib, which is very exciting. Ooh. And then also just moved into the first colour. So looking at the original picture, you can see there that the first colour is sort of the grey, isn't it, on the original? Dark grey on the original, yeah. This is the main colour, this kind of... What is that? What colour is... It's not aubergine, it's too bright to be aubergine, isn't it? It's sort of like a, I don't know, magenta-y slightly. That one will be the main colour. And then moving into... So on the original picture, it's sort of like a lighter brown. Yeah. Well, here, this is what we're using, which is sort of like a darker brown, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's a very dark brown or a very dark grey. Right. It looks different in different lights. As do the majority of Let Lopey yarns, which is just tremendous. I don't know whether it's how they dye it or whether it's just how... I suspect it's probably how the wool takes the dye. To me, currently, that looks dark brown, which is what I wanted. I did want a dark brown. Well, that's okay then. So yeah, we've got that one, and then as the light contrast, that's number 54. And we think that'll look really cool. Absolutely. So what's exciting about this is it's different to what I've done before. Well, it isn't. I have done things with different necklines because I remember doing something on the Samantha that was different, and it was joining at the top with the 3-needle bind off. I think that's what it's called. And so I think that there'll be a lot of techniques here. You know, for example, you get up to the armholes and then you knit old-fashioned style forwards and backwards on each side, and I feel perfectly cool with that because that is exactly what I did in the Samantha, and I enjoyed it. It was fine, you know, and I don't mind it for a stretch, and then you'll just join at the top, won't you?
I think so.
With a 3-needle bind off, that's what it looked like.
And then pick up for the neck and pick up for the arms.
Yeah, which, you know...
I think that's what it'll be.
That is exactly what I did for the Samantha. And I remember vividly doing that, and I remember really enjoying that. It was a real challenge, and it's fun to sort of take what I've learned with regards to the colourwork knitting with the Let Lopi and then to you know, plug it into different ways that things are constructed. So... be interesting to see how I get on. But that's my new cast on. Much happier with this.
Oh, yes,
made
absolutely.
much more progress. You know, it was just tedious and hard work and a real pain on the fingers with that other yarn because there was just no give, whereas this just feels much more natural and fun, and also the colour is just way more classic.
The colour's great, and we know that it's going to look great for you know, forever, for years and years and years. This yarn just... you know, I think it's got that reputation, hasn't it, that they just wear really well and they last for years and years, and I can see it's something that I will really treasure, and I think I'll wear it a lot, you know, with a nice little shirt.
What else is on your needles?
Right, so in my quest to finish all of the things, I get in moods like this. Does anyone else get in moods like this, where you just want to sort of finish loads of things? I think I do little recce's, if you like, of what I've got on the needles, and I do that fairly regularly, every sort of few weeks. I make a little note in my planner. Everything goes in my planner now. I live by my planner. I love it. And it's brilliant because I can look back to sort of the few weeks beforehand when I made a list, and I can sort of cross off the things that I've finished, and then, you know, I'll add on new things that have emerged. And I think it's just a great, very simple way of keeping a handle on what's going on with your projects. And I just had a few too many really to be comfortable. So I thought, right, okay, I'm just going to get a few things off the needles. And this is another thing that I've been working on, and it's the owl cowl that I'm knitting for Bryony. I showed this a couple of times, but I've done quite a lot, and I am getting close to the end. So the owl cowl is a pattern of mine. It's a free pattern that you can download on Ravelry and Lovecrafts free of charge. And this is the third one I've knit now. And this is the one, oh, isn't it lovely? Oh, look at that.
Colours are great.
This is the one I'm knitting for Bryony. She wanted blues and she wanted brown. So she chose the brown. The brown full skein, this is from Eden Cottage. And it's on the Silverdale base, so it's the sparkly one. Fingering weight, and the colourway is called Twig. It's just this lovely brown. I don't know why I'm showing you the ball. You can see it in the cowl. So, and then the blues are Cascade Heritage. I've got the colours written down actually. My trusty Cascade Heritage. I think I just had to buy one or two of the colours. I had all of the others. So this bottom one is navy. Then this one is marine. I love this colour. And then we've got denim, turquoise, bachelor button is the one I'm doing right now. And then the last one, which is my favourite actually, is placid blue. I love this shade of blue. It's like sort of Wedgwoody blue, do you think? I really love it. So that'll be the last blue. So I've got this blue section, and then another brown section, and then the placid blue, and then the rib. So just 1, 2, 3 more sections and then the rib. So again, I'm hoping to have this done within the next couple of weeks, I would say. It's lovely knitting. I really, really enjoy knitting it. And actually my first owl cowl that I made is probably my most worn cowl. I wore it all last winter. I had it on recently actually because it's been quite chilly. Yay for that. And I really, really love it. And you can knit one of these, like I said, the pattern's free if you would like to. It's just got a simple little detail at the changeover, which I thought looked like a little owl's face, and that's why I called it the owl cowl. So a lovely use of a favourite sort of skein of fingering weight, and then just grab some minis for the other colours. You could, it's got 13 sections in it, I believe, this. So, I mean, you could do it as an advent thing, couldn't you? There is one more than the 12, but you could just add, there's 12 sort of individual, 13 individual sections, but you could just add another mini, couldn't you, if you wanted to do it as a little advent. So yeah, working on that, very pleased. I could see Bryony wearing this. They're definitely her colours. And I wanted to get that off the needles as quickly as I can. What else?
It's
oh my
another
goodness.
jumper.
And you're close to finishing.
Well, maybe.
Aren't you?
Yeah, I suppose. It's the Alexander, which is by the same designer as the Stacker, and it is, of course, is my third colourwork jumper, and into the decreases, which is great fun. But the rounds do take a while. Oh, they just do take a while for me, just because there's a lot. There's just a lot. I'm enjoying every minute of it. It's not remote. I mean, this is like my perfect type of projects. You know, I could just do this all day. So I'm probably just enjoying every stitch, which is good. But really happy with.
I love the colourwork on the cuff.
Yes. It's cool, it's cool.
It's very regal.
It is, it's really nice. It really fits beautifully, which is great. You know, it's different, but sometimes people just pick out, you know, something that seems very similar to what's above. And I love the fact how it's more sort of complementary and it feels like an extension of, which I just think is really great fun. But yeah, they look just like waves, which is great. And this wool is just so... It's so amazing because just when you start to knit with it quite a bit and you've maybe knit through, you know, a good proportion of a garment like I have here, the smell it gives off is just amazing. It smells just so great.
It'll be lanolin, won't it?
I really don't know, but there's not much. I can't think of many.
Smells like you.
I can't think of much wool that smells quite like this. And that for me it's part of the experience, isn't it? I think so. Anyway,
That's going to look so good on you.
Which is just tremendously sort of exciting to look forward to, which is just great. And the colours are just perfect, which is lovely. And
I love the contrast of the two. And we're going to put that pop of colour in.
As I've mentioned on other projects, different colourways tend to behave in different ways. Well, what I've found is that certainly these two grey, well... It's not really grey, is it?
It is. Well, is it rough sea?
It is rough sea.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a greyish, greenish colour. It's a gorgeous colour, actually. It really is the colour of rough sea. Sometimes it looks grey, sometimes it looks green.
What's interesting is they both behave quite similarly, which is great. Whereas if I think back to the last one that I finished, which was the anniversary, which had in it it had the spacey one, the Galaxy. Called? Yeah. The difference between the Galaxy and the white that was in that was really quite profound. It was like a completely different yarn. You know, the Galaxy was really quite splitty, whereas the white was more sort of tightly spun. And I'm not complaining about any of it because I do like changes in yarn. I find that much more interesting to knit with, and also as well I find it, you know, it's a challenge to knit colourwork with things like that, because if you've got a very splitty yarn, as I found out when I first started knitting certain ones of them, the yarn would just split. You know, I remember a couple of times.
Pull apart, you mean? When you say splitty, you don't mean
pulling
splitty.
it apart.
You mean fragile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, I'll knit with it and literally I would just pull and the yarn would just split into two. And that happened a couple of times. And so you have to sort of really start thinking about what you're doing and making sure that you still uphold your technique so that you don't get poor quality colourwork whilst, you know, making sure that everything happens that needs to happen. And that's the type of challenge that I really quite enjoy. Of course, Let Lope is brilliant for colourwork, as Kay said earlier, because it just sort of sticks together and
it's very grippy. Yeah.
So it just it pops out and stands out, which is great. So that is the Alexander, and I'm just approaching a second decrease, which is fun. So I think
it gets quicker, doesn't it, after every decrease, which is good.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's the Alexander, and hopefully next time you see it, I'm sure there's no hopefully, we'll have the colour into it then. So that lovely green
that's
will be
exciting. I can't wait to see that.
Very exciting. So what else is on your needles?
So the third thing is another pair of socks, and it's the pair of socks I'm knitting that I'm timing myself with. Now I've finished the first sock, so I know how long it now takes me to knit a sock, and I'm actually filming the process. So this will be going out in 4 parts, I believe it is.
First 2 parts have gone out already.
Oh, right, brilliant. So the other 2 parts will be forthcoming, and when we get to the 4th part, you will find out how long it takes me to knit a sock. So look, first sock finished. Isn't it pretty? And I'm using my Prom Queen pattern. I think it definitely works with self-striping. I think it looks lovely.
Yeah.
These stripes are very skinny. This is the skinniest self-striping yarn I think I've ever knit with. You get at the most 3 rounds, and for some part of the round you'll only have 2 rounds of a colour. So very skinny stripes. I think a more standard sort of 5 or 6 round stripe, and you would see the pattern even better than this, but I think it definitely works. And the contrast is so pretty. I love that peach. Really lovely. So 1 sock complete. And I cast on the 2nd sock. Actually, I did do it straight away. I did it literally straight away. And I'm now to the heel flap. I'm just about to start the heel flap of the 2nd sock. So I think I thought in the end, yeah, it was close. I have matched them. I couldn't remember if I did or I didn't. I have matched them. Normally I'm not fussed about them matching at all when it's self-striping, and actually I kind of prefer it when they don't. The reason I tried to match them as close as I am, I think about half a round out, which is okay. But the reason I thought I'd try and match this time is because I didn't want to land at the heel and then at the toe when I was on the peach. Do you know what I mean? I wanted it to be a distance away from the peach so that they didn't join onto each other. So I thought, well, I know how this one's knit up, so I'll try and match it, and then because I know that I'm okay in terms of the placement of the peach. So I am a little bit out because here, when I started the heel, it's entirely on brown. If you can see, you know, the brown goes all the way around, whereas it's just turned to the navy blue. So I'm going to get a little bit of blue at the top of my heel flap on the 2nd sock, but you know, it's not ideal, but I can live with it. Stuff like that bothers me. I know that it wouldn't bother a lot of people, but it'll be fine. It's all right. You know, sometimes, you know, it's okay not to be completely perfect. But this yarn was a limited edition, limited collection colour that I bought 2 years ago now from Stripy Cat Yarns. So there was only a run of 20 of this colour, and it was called Happily Ever After. And Bryony chose it because it reminds her of Belle from Once Upon a Time, or Uat as she started calling it. Don't know if that's the thing, but yeah, we're watching Once Upon a Time at the moment. We're on season 3 and really enjoying it. It's just daft, isn't it? But it's really good fun, and the characters are great, and the acting is good, and you know, it's fun. Really enjoying it. So yeah, I'm on sock 2. I'm going to work on this again, and you know, try and plough through and get this pair finished as well as soon as I can.
Is it massively challenging dyeing?
Self-striping?
Yeah.
I believe so. I've never done it. There's different methods of dyeing self-striping, isn't there? I've seen a couple of different methods. I've seen a method where people dye it in jars. So you have like a jar of each colour and you drape. But the first thing you've got to do is you've got to make your skein really long.
Right.
You know, really long.
Yeah.
And then you can either... So yeah, you'll put dye into jars and you'll dump each bit into jars. How else do people dye it? I think you can do it more... I mean, I've seen people when they're just doing it in their own homes, they'll have this really long skein and you'll sort of lay it on something waterproof and just go around and dye it in sections. Right. And do it that way. But I'm not sure how people like Stacey at Moustache. I have no idea how she dyes her yarn.
Trade secret.
I'll show you. I finished a pair of socks actually in her yarn, so I will show you those in What's Off. I've really no idea how she does it. And
you would assume it was more labour intensive.
Oh, absolutely it's more labour intensive.
So you would think that you would pay more.
You do pay, generally you do pay more,
Cool.
and quite rightly,
Shows what I
in my
know.
opinion, quite rightly paying more. Sometimes you don't, and I would very happily pay more for a self-striping yarn because I fully appreciate the amount of work that goes into it, and especially yarn like Stacey's where you've not just got stripes, you've got other magical things going on. But this one, I don't know how it's dyed, but when I'm hitting the colour change, I do sometimes get a little bit of undyed. So I do wonder if it's more in jars, because I think that can happen because you do have that bit of a transition, don't you, where the yarn is not in one jar or not in the other. But I don't know, I'm absolutely guessing. But it's brilliant. And I fully admire people who dye self-striping yarn because yeah, I don't know if I'm brave enough to try it. I'd probably do something like a 2-colour. If you made the skein big enough, because I've seen people sort of put 2 dining room chairs like this and just get your skein and wind a gigantic skein, and then if you've got like a table big enough with something waterproof underneath it, do it that way. But then you've obviously got to heat your yarn afterwards once you put the dye on it, so it's all a big faff. It's a real big faff.
Yeah, I mean, and as well, I suppose what you lose, well, it's like any technique, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah.
But what you lose then is the sort of the potion-y type creations where you're layering up things and speckling on things, and then you're adding this, and then suddenly ping, it changes to something else.
It's a much more planned operation.
I'm not remotely criticising striped yarn. It's marvellous.
I love
but
it.
I suspect that you
It's so
maybe
pretty, isn't it?
I know that you really enjoy that sort of more potion-y element.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. As dyeing the yarn. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't. I don't think I would enjoy dyeing self-striping yarn because I just think it's a lot of.
It feels like it would be a very
hassle.
methodical process.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got to do the same thing over and over, haven't you? So, but I love knitting with self-striping yarn, and
Yeah. Thank goodness for all the marvellous.
Thank goodness for all the amazing self-striping yarn dyes out there. Long may they continue.
Yes.
So that we can buy it and enjoy knitting up. Because there's nothing better really than a pair of self-striping, is there? I don't think.
There really isn't, and that's just the most perfect colour to go with it.
It's gorgeous.
Too.
One thing I always do, actually, can you see the heel turn? When I'm knitting self-striping yarns, if I'm putting in a heel flap and gusset, I always do a square heel turn, because with a square heel turn you end up with less stitches when you've finished the heel turn. And that means you're going to have less gusset decreases, so it interrupts the stripes less. And I find that that's enough. Normally, if you look at the gusset decreases, they end here. So they're quite short. Normally, they'd go down a bit further to maybe here. And even though these are only sort of 3-row stripes, you do get, you can see these ones are a bit skinnier, but I don't think it really detracts from the look as a whole. And if these were thicker stripes, I think you would barely notice the difference. So that's really my tip. If you want to put in a heel flap and a heel turn into your self-striping socks, do a square turn. And square turns are lovely. I've got square turns in quite a few of my designs. It produces, as the name says, it's like a little square piece, whereas the traditional sort of French heel is more this shape, isn't it? This one is square, but it's a lovely fit. It's really comfortable. So yeah, definitely that is what I do. If I'm not doing like a afterthought heel, or in my case I do my butterfly heel, the mock short row heel.
Oh my goodness, it's time for another walk. Neil, it's fair to say we've had 3 wonderful walks so far in this series, and I've learnt so much about a part of the world which I just absolutely adore. But what I said to you at the start of the series was that slowly but surely Hadrian's Wall would open itself up to us like a book, and I'm sure there's maybe some of you who've maybe been looking and thinking, oh my goodness, I thought there might be more there. Well folks, the time has come. Oh yes, we're going to take things up a notch. This is Walking the Wall. Welcome everyone to Northumberland. This is perhaps my favourite county in all of England. Rolling hills make some absolutely wonderful vistas and gorgeous landscapes to look out on, and scattered in between those hills are some of the most unique and unforgettable little villages. In this series, over 7 walks, we're exploring Hadrian's Wall, the epic monument built by the Romans nearly 2,000 years ago to mark the edge of their vast empire. And as we walk this stunning landscape, we're finding out what an awesome job they did. Who could forget the vast Valum Hadriani, the highlight of the first walk in the series? This was of course the ditch which protected the south side of the 73-mile wall which stretched from coast to coast. We've also visited the sites of 3 forts. This is Chester's, my favourite so far from our second walk in the wall. On our last walk, we took in the sights of Black Carts and its enigmatic turret. This time we're back for an epic walk along one of my favourite parts of this amazing monument. Because in all our walks so far, we've only seen really hints of what was here. I promised you that Hadrian's Wall was going to open up to us like a good book. And folks, we've got some great news, because we've got to the good chapters. Just take a look at this. Let me tell you, this place is as amazing as it looks. If you want to come to Roman Britain and walk in the footsteps of the legionaries that used to live and work in this part of the world, there's no better place than this. It's by far my favourite site on all of Hadrian's Wall. This, folks, is going to be quite the walk, in quite the weather, as you can see. Welcome everyone to Walking the Wall. Welcome back everyone to Northumberland, and we're right in the heart of Hadrian's Wall country. Now we've moved, it's about the same again actually as last walk, we've moved about 7 miles west along the wall, and we're northwest of the modern day village, actually it's bordering on a town of Hayden Bridge, and I think it's fair to say that we are at probably the most popular spot along all of Hadrian's Wall. Now, when I first started filming this series, if you had said to me, take me to the perfect iconic spot for seeing bits of Roman Britain. This is the place I would have brought you to. We're in the car park to one of the most outstanding Roman forts I've ever visited. And let me tell you, I've been to a few. We're starting our walk today at one of the most iconic sites in all of the Roman Empire. This is Vercovicium, known today as Housesteads Roman Fort. Now then, folks, the walks that we've done so far in this series have been outstanding, haven't they? I've learned so much about this wonderful part of the country, so much I'd never even considered before, and it's really made me feel an absolute fool, because for the last 30 years I've been driving past all of that, normally coming right here, hot-footing it to this spot. And the reason why is because this place has got more remaining Roman archaeology than anywhere I've ever seen, really in the whole of the UK. It's absolutely phenomenal. There's an outstanding fort, there's loads of wall, there's also a Roman settlement. Now, it's what they used to call a vicus, and the vicus is just, it's tremendous. We're going to finish with that today, and I really can't wait to show it to you, because there's a mystery in the vicus that is unsolved 2,000 years later, but more of that later on in the show. Now, because this place is so good, because it's got so much stuff, the one thing that we're going to have to deal with today is a few more people, because this place is quite popular. There's also some gift shops, but we will navigate our way through all that, and we'll make our way out into the outstanding scenery that is all around this spot. I think you can probably see that I'm quite excited, and I hope you are too. So I'm going to shut up, and I think we should get going. It's a little bit different to our previous walks, isn't it? It's actually all changed in there since I was last here. That's a cafe. The gift shop is now at the top. But whilst it does feel a little bit more commercialised, very quickly we're getting out into the countryside we've come to know and love in this series. And suddenly before us, there's an old friend. We're walking straight across the Vallum. This was the Great Ditch, which of course protected the south side of Hadrian's Wall. That was the Roman side. And because of that, many people, many historians have pondered why it was that this Vallum needed to be here. Well, the consensus now seems to be that if you or I wanted to go onto a military base, we wouldn't be allowed just to walk straight on. And this was a military zone. So this Vallum stopped the general public just wandering into a place that was absolutely jam-packed full of military. But if we did have permission 1,900 years ago to come up here, we'd be walking into such a bustling part of the wall. I'm going to try and protect my mic a little bit so you can hear me okay. Because this place was bordering on a small town. There would have been Roman legionaries bustling around. There would have been lots of civilians because there was a civilian settlement here. There also would have been soldiers moving to and fro along the line of the wall, along the military way. Because of that, there would have been shops, pubs, all sorts of things that you would expect and you would see in a modern Western town today. And at the heart of all of it was the commanding officer. And his house, or what's left of it, still remains, and there is quite a lot of it. And it's not too shabby. Let's go take a look. And here we are in the heart of the Roman fort. This was the home of the commanding officer. Now, he didn't live here alone. He actually got to live here with his wife and his children. And he commanded the whole of the fort, all the soldiers and all the surrounding area all around the fort. Now, I could literally spend all day with you at Housesteads. There's so many things I could show you, but we just don't have time today. So I'm going to show you my 3 favourite things at Verkevicium. And we're going to start just over here. How cool is that? Every house I've ever lived in, my whole life, has had great big, ugly radiators pumping out heat. Not 2,000 years ago. Oh no, they had underfloor heating. Now, I must just clarify, the mere soldier did not enjoy underfloor heating. It was only the senior officers who had it. But still, it's pretty impressive, isn't it? You're out here in Northumberland. Today, we're in summer and it's still cold and it's still rainy, so you can only imagine what it was like in the winter. But underfloor heating certainly takes the edge off. Now, we've left the commanding officer's house and we're walking down the main street. When this fort was in action, this would have been seriously tall, with buildings. There'd have been soldiers everywhere. There'd have been lots of noise. You'd have heard horses. You'd have heard ironmongery going on with people dealing with swords, and so it would have been really bustly. But I'm bringing you down to the east gate. This was the main entrance because there's something unbelievably cool I want to show you. Do you see there and there? Those are wheel ruts, and they're exactly 4 feet 8 inches apart. Now, when you consider that stone would once have come straight across like that, but thousands and thousands of wheel ruts, only in Roman times, would have passed over here, and it's also the same this side, here, that they've channeled into the stone the exact width of their cart axle. It's absolutely amazing. These ruts were made by Roman legionaries coming and going from Vercovicium Fort 1,900 years ago. Talk about history you can touch. Now you might be wondering why I've got so excited about wheel ruts. And I'm going to tell you. Because those wheel ruts, as we've just seen, were made by Roman legionaries coming in and out with carts, most probably pulled by mules 1,900 years ago. And that distance, 4 feet 8 inches apart, may sound familiar to some of you, because that is the standard railway gauge, certainly for England, certainly for Canada, and definitely for the USA as well. And the reason being is, when the Romans made those wheel ruts, afterwards, when the Romans left and essentially the Dark Ages began in the UK, no one had the money to change the trackways, and so the distance between the ruts that had been made by those carts had to be reflected in all the carts that came afterwards. So every cart that came after the Roman era had an axle of 4 feet 8 inches, and that carried on, and it carried on, and it carried on, right the way until George Stephenson invented the railways. Now, I think that is unbelievable, that the Romans and their cart axles gave us the width of railway tracks. It's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, that is just, it's the type of history that I just adore. Now, there's one more place. I've got time for one more stop at Vercovicium. And this is a place which I wasn't certain I should show you, but I think you're going to enjoy it. So we're finally off and underway. We've left Housesteads Fort behind us and we're heading west. We're back on the Hadrian's Wall path. We're going to make our way to a mile castle that I know rather well. I've been to it so many times, I love it. We're then going to stop off at a turret. There's not much left of it, unfortunately, but you know, like the turret that we saw on our last walk. We're then going to turn right, we're going to pick up the Pennine Way, and we're going to walk north, straight into Ridley Common. Because Ridley Common, I'm told, has some outstanding views of Housesteads Fort, which we can then look up at, up on the ridge. We're going to see Greenlee Loch, and I bet you only thought those were in Scotland, didn't you? I know I did. We're then going to get back to the wall, pick up Hadrian's Wall path, and before we finish our epic trek today, we're going to take a look at the Vicus. That was the Roman settlement that was on the outside of the fort. It's an absolutely tantalising place, and there's a house there that's got a real mystery attached to it. I told you this walk was going to be good, didn't I? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Mile Castle 37. If you recall from our last walk, well, we barely actually saw remains of the Mile Castle at all. It was just a bit of grass. This is the place where between 8 and 36 men would have been garrisoned, and their job would have been to protect that wall mile. Now, you can see it was quite a significant piece of building, to be honest, because there's an archway, the gateway through which people would have passed, and they would have been taxed as they came. And then also, we've got the barrack blocks where the soldiers would have lived. This is most definitely the most visited of all the Mile Castles because it's so close to Housesteads Fort, and I can't tell you how many times I've been here for a picnic. It's marvellous. Now, one of the best things that we know about Vercovicium and the soldiers who lived and worked in this landscape is we actually know a little bit about them. Because when the wall was first built, there weren't any forts, there were just mile castles and turrets. So the soldiers who worked here, and they were called the Tungrians, they actually came up from a nearby fort. It's about 3 or 4 miles in that direction, and it's called Vindolanda. Now, it just so happens that in the 1970s, archaeology was going on at Vindolanda, and they actually found some postcards written on very thin pieces of wood, and they dated from just before the time that Hadrian's Wall was built, so around 80, sort of 90 AD. They're sort of within 10-15 years of when the wall was started. So the Tungrians, at that time, they were just solely at Vindolanda. And because they found some postcards are normally signed, aren't they? And we actually know the names of some of the men who would have known this landscape 2,000 years ago, and they're pretty impressive names. Now, how about Victor Venator? That sounds like a film star from the 1950s, doesn't it? Black and white films or something. Or what about Victor Balniator? I mean, that's just tremendous, isn't it? That sounds like a WWE wrestler, I think. Now, the funny thing is, surnames were actually your job. So, Victor Venator, he was actually the hunter, because Venator in Latin is hunter. And Victor Balniator, he was actually the bathhouse keeper. That's what Balniator means, bathhouse keeper. It's fascinating, isn't it? What I also sort of love is that when the wall was finished and the Tungrians were commuting up to work, how many people in the modern world want to move closer to their job? And that's what they did, didn't they? They moved their fort so it was right on the wall, so they didn't have as far of a commute. It's just amazing, isn't it, that 2,000 years may have passed between them and us, but the problems that so many of us face today are exactly the same as what these men and women, because of course they had wives and daughters too, they faced here as well. It's amazing. Right. The weather is coming in a bit dodgy. Hopefully it won't last too long, but just when things are about to get interesting too, because we are coming up on Mile Castle 37A. I tell a lie, it's not Mile Castle 37A. This is Turret 37A. It's the first one up from that Mile Castle we just visited, and this is one of the places which the soldiers who were garrisoned at that Mile Castle would have come on 12-hour shifts. They would have come here, monitored the wall in either direction. But this is actually the point where we're going to turn right. We're going to head north onto the Pennine Way. We're going to walk into a place I've never visited before. It's called Ridley Common, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. But first of all, I think I'm going to need a little bit of a rest and a little bit of a drink. So whilst I catch my breath, you guys head off for a cup of tea, and I'll see you later on in the show for more Walking the Wall. Now that's what I call walking in the footsteps of Romans.
Wow.
I mean, come on.
Cool.
That is the reason why the wall captivated me from such a young age. And actually, when you've seen that, it totally changes your enjoyment of those first walks, because in your mind you can see, because it all would have looked very similar.
What's coming? Yeah.
So you know what you, and actually sometimes it's nice not to be able to see it, because in your mind what you picture is much more vivid than actually. But even so, I think it's marvellous, just marvellous, to be able to go and see underfloor heating and those track marks, you know, that led to the railways. Now, I did make one small error, and that is I got one of the names wrong. It was raining, it was windy, I was slightly stressed, but I said it was Victor Venator, which was right, and I said Victor Balneator. It's Vitalis Balneator. This was a man at the end of the day, and I didn't want to do him the disservice. It's true, isn't it? Of getting his name wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how that for me as well is where things really do get exciting, when you know names. And one of the things which I think didn't make the final cut, I'm virtually certain, I didn't mention anything, did I, about the lady and her signature being the very first female signature?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you think it might have been there? Well,
I think you might have. Did you say it was the first female writing? Or
was that in?
I think so.
Right, that's brilliant.
So.
I'm glad I put that in. And we've actually seen the Vindelander tablets.
We have.
They're not as exciting.
They're not. No, they're not. They are. Yeah, they're in like a little museum at Vindelander. But the thing is,
they have to keep them.
They have to keep them in a really darkened state.
So you're like.
So you go in and it's very, very dim in there, and then they're dimly lit. Actually, Bryony was younger and she hated going in there. It's really dark, wasn't it? And she was like, I'm not going in there. But she did. So yeah, I mean, don't expect them to be in like a brightly lit museum, because they just can't be. You know, they would deteriorate. You know, they've got to keep them in a condition that preserves them at the level they're at.
And what's super fascinating about it is because they were discovered for the first time ever anywhere in the world at Vindelander. Now, when archaeological digs are going on at Roman fort sites across the world, they look out for these tablets.
Because they know what they're looking for. I think previously they might have just been disregarded as a bit of wood.
They never even noticed. Yeah.
Random bit of wood, but, you know,
chucked
not noticing that they'd got, like, scratches on right.
I know that they've now found them at other sites. I know in London they found some. There's so much more to come though. Yes, we've visited Housesteads, but we mentioned earlier on in the show, how's about we go on a little search for King Arthur? Oh yes. Also as well, very excited to go and have a little look at a mystery in the village, in the town that surrounded Housesteads, fit for Hercule Poirot himself.
Yes.
That's all to come though in part 2, because right now it's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
And sewing machine.
And sewing machine.
Sewing needle.
And sewing needle.
I've got a very eclectic mix of...
Needles fits, actually, doesn't it? Because you always forget, don't you, that it's a needle doing the work on the sewing machine.
Very true.
That's amazing, isn't it? To think it's that big machine, but actually just one little needle.
It is.
Going up and down.
But the first thing I finished are Dan's Yoda socks.
Amazing.
Look how amazing these are.
I'm going to put those on and I'm going to go defend the home tree.
I know, yeah. This is a moustache yarn that I was talking about a little bit ago, and I've got 2 leftover bits. I haven't weighed this, but it's got to be sort of 15 grams, I would think, because they come in 2 50-gram skeins. Now, I've discovered something. I actually cast these on at the same time on 2 needles, and I was working them at the same time, thinking it was going to be quicker for me, because I think that's the sort of general feeling, maybe, that if you're working them both at the same time, then you'll have them, because you finish them both at the same time, so maybe it feels like it's quicker. But actually, for me, I don't think it is quicker. I was finding, for whatever reason, that I just didn't enjoy knitting them both at the same time. I stopped when I got to... I'll just show you the yarn first. So it's moustache yarn. It looks like a little yarn cake, doesn't it? I've stuck them in the either end of the ball band. So it's moustache yarn, and yes, it's called Defender of the Home Tree, aka Yoda. And I got to about, I think, here on both socks, and decided I wasn't going to knit them concurrently again. And I just finished the first one, and then I went back and finished the second one, and it honestly was way quicker for me doing it that way. So I don't think I'll do that again. I'm just going to knit them one at a time, and that's just quicker for me. Why? Who knows? Everybody's different, aren't they? But I think they look great. And I used just a mini from, I think this was from the Wool Barn, in a little 5-skein set. And the brown, I thought, went really well. It's slightly different to the brown in the yarn itself, but I think it's close enough. And just little shorty socks, look at the size of them. Shorty socks for Dan for the summer. All done.
Thank you very much.
This is what I mean about Stacey's yarn. And I think she quite often, it's more of like, you'll get random stripes and then some variegated, and then you might get stripes again. She does a really sort of particular way of dyeing her yarns. I think some of them are sort of a more basic stripe. I think I've got a Christmas one, the Hobbit one here. But even within that, I can see there's some speckles in some of the stripes. She's brilliant. I think we'd all agree if you've knit with Stacey's yarn, it's just fantastic. So they're all done, and they are for you.
Thank you very much.
And I've done my longer modified umbrella toe as well. I decided to modify the umbrella toe because on him, when you look at his foot in a sock, the toe looks like it's tiny at the top like this because his feet are so big. So I've modified it so that it's longer. It's still nice and rounded, but it's just longer overall. And that seems to fit you a bit better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Thank you very much.
Pair of socks for you.
What else is off your needles?
Well, it's another pair of socks, and I finished the Moonstruck Socks. So these are the socks that I've done the tutorial series on.
Amazing.
So we've got the lovely lace, which it is a challenging lace, but that was the whole point of this series, that it's a lace pattern that will challenge you, because there are some stitches in there which are, you've got to pay attention. The
beauty of your tutorials is that you've really now, sticking this in the sort of range too, you cover all the bases, because we've got beginner sock tutorials, and we wanted to do something that pushed people a bit who'd watched our beginner sock tutorials and wanted to really sort of get their teeth into something challenging, and this is.
It definitely is a bit of a challenge, yeah. But I mean, a lot of people have actually finished these now.
Yeah.
We're still going through the series,
and the series hasn't even finished.
No, it hasn't. I think the next one to come out is the foot one, and then we've got the toe, and then the finishing.
That's right.
Yeah, so I knit these in Eden Cottage yarn again as the main colour, and the colour was Moonstruck, which is where I got the name from. I stole it. And then Cuffs, Heels and Toes is Cascade Heritage in Luna Rock. I think the colours together are just lovely. It does make you think sort of moon thoughts, I think, doesn't it? So it goes down the outside of the leg.
That's not a moon.
That's
a pair of
space
socks.
Station. Oh, you see, I was doing Star Wars.
So was I, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's a really lovely stitch, and you could say it's moons, or you could say it's a string of baubles, or whatever you want, really.
Gorgeous.
So they're all done.
There's something else.
I've got two other things actually. So I finished the second hand embroidered piece. So the first one, if you remember, I showed you on the bag last time, and I've finished the second one now. So we've finished filming the series, and you know that will start going out
July.
Yeah. So I finished this and I've pressed it, so it's all ready for me to make into something else. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? And I found this fabric in my stash. This is a Liberty quilting cotton, Christmas themed. I think it was from the Merry and Bright range, but I'm not certain on that. I think it was. It's not on the selvage. It doesn't really have that big of a selvage, this fabric. Couldn't think of the word. But look how nicely the colours match. So I think I'm going to somehow piece it together with this. This is just a fat quarter, I think. Although it looks quite big for a fat quarter. Is that a fat quarter? I think it is, isn't it? But there's enough there for me to make a small drawstring bag if I just use a sort of maybe a plain grey for the inside, something like that. I think I've actually got some of this, which is also Liberty. I've got some of this left, so I could use that to line it, and that'd be lovely. So I am going to make another little, probably like I said, a drawstring bag. I do have tutorials for a drawstring and for a zipped bag.
Perfect.
So that's finished.
And what's your last thing?
And then talking of bags, I made Bryony a little wrist bag for her prom. Her prom's coming up
soon.
Quite soon now, beginning of next month, when she's finished her exams. And the last thing she needed was a little bag. Now, she only needed really a bag big enough to get her phone in and a lipstick. She said that's all she needs. So I made this little bag. Can you see it's like sparkly gold? And it does actually have my phone and a lipstick in there. So you can see it fits. There's my phone with its, look at my sparkly phone. And a lipstick. And it fits perfectly. But the fabric that I used, she wanted something fairy tale. So I found this fabric, which is Snow White.
And that's just like a mini version of your full size.
This is a mini version of my zipped project bag.
Amazing.
It absolutely is.
That's so cool.
The fabric was 8x6, I remember. I cut fabric 8x6, and this is the size it made. Right. So if I put those back in, and I put the Snow White on the wrist thing as well, so it just slips over your wrist like that, and there's no risk, you know, it's going to drop off. And she thinks it's great, you know, she tried it on, she says it's perfect. So she won't lose her phone, you know, and it's big enough, and the pack of tissues or, you know, whatever else in there will also fit. So that's all done as well.
Cool.
Very productive time I've had.
Speaking of productive, I think it's time we got back out to Northumberland as we finished off our epic walk. Welcome back to Walking the Wall. We've left Hadrian's Wall behind us. And we've picked up one of the most famous walking trails in the country. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Pennine Way. We're going to walk probably about a mile north on this trail, and then we're going to turn west and hopefully get some absolutely stunning views of Vercovicium. Any serious walker in the UK knows the name Alfred Wainwright, and there's loads of amazing stories about him. He was clearly a very lovely man. One of my favourites though is, I think he doubted that many people would complete the full 288-mile trail of the Pennine Way, and he said on a whim one day, but in a public setting so he could be called out on it, anyone who completes the full 288 miles, I'll buy them a pint. How wrong he was, because when he died, I think it was in 1992, Alfred Wainwright died at a ripe old age. Supposedly he'd paid out £15,000 in pint money. So we've left the Pennine Way behind us and we're making our way east. We're walking straight across Ridley Common, and Vercovicium lies up on the top of the crags that lie just to my right. And my goodness, from here you can see why it's such an iconic site. You really can see why this place is probably the premier site to come and visit if you're interested in Roman Britain. My goodness, it does make you wonder, when did tourists first start coming here? Because it is absolutely packed today. Well, I'm going to let you into a little secret. Tourists have been coming here since Hadrian's Wall was built. How do we know? Well, metal detectorists, I think about 15 years ago, in southern England, were scanning across a field and they found this. You're looking at a copper alloy pan that was found in the ground, exactly like this. It's just been polished up. And what's what's in the pan is the names of forts. So it's the forts on Hadrian's Wall. So there's only one thing that this can be. That pan will have been made not far from here. Someone has come and visited Hadrian's Wall and they've bought that, just like we would do in the gift shop here today. So whilst 2,000 years have passed since that pan was bought, people are still doing exactly that. I only wish, actually, that the souvenirs were as nice as that gorgeous pan.
You also might be wondering what a loft is. Well, it's actually pronounced loch, and that might give you a bit of a clue as to how it's got its name. If you remember, on our last walk, we discovered that the tribes, the raiding tribes that came over from Ireland after the Romans left, conquered very much, well, they settled really, there was no one in this part of the world, so they settled here. So these Irish tribes, they named certain things. And in Ireland, the ancient word for a lake is L-U-G-H, which is actually pronounced loch. Now, when the border for Scotland was eventually sort of settled quite a few hundred years later, it's 50, 60 miles north of here. Because these had been called, and when I say these, there's actually 19 more of them as well. So there's 19 lochs, not in Scotland. Because they sort of fell in no man's land in a part of the world where, when once the Scotty tribes had ruled, no one changed their name. You know, they were completely used to calling them lochs, and lochs they are to this day. Amazing, isn't it? I had no idea. Now we're approaching the interestingly named King's Wicket. And if you're wondering who the king is that we're referring to, would you believe it's actually King Arthur? Now, King Arthur is the legendary king written really, you know, people, if you spoke to most people, they would say that it was a mythical story. Well, his story is sort of intrinsically linked with this part of the world. I actually didn't know that at all. I didn't know that until very recently. Now, I saw the film in 2004. I don't know if you saw it as well, called King Arthur. It stars Clive Owen, Keira Knightley. I think Ray Winston's in it too. Ian Griffith too, I think. And it's a brilliant film, and it sort of tells the story of King Arthur from the Roman perspective. And when I say the Roman perspective, there is a school of thought that Arthur may well have been an ex-Roman legionary who stayed in this country and became that famous king that certainly anyone in this country will have read about and know about. Now, what tends to happen is, over time, stories are built upon, they're sort of played around with, they're made to sound even more impressive. Whatever the truth is, whether Arthur existed or not, his sword was called Excalibur. And for those of you who know the tale, Excalibur was thrown into a lake when King Arthur died. Well, the reason why King's Wicket is called King's Wicket is because that's the place that he was brought over, King Arthur, after he died. And he was brought to the banks of Bromley Loch, which we've just taken a look at, and Excalibur was thrown straight in there. Can you believe it? Now, I would be lying to you if I said that the 15-year-old in me didn't want to go and get a snorkel and go for a dive and see if we can find Excalibur. And I think the thing which makes this my favourite part of all the wall is it's in the walks before, sort of just cutting through the countryside, and everything's lovely and fairly rolling, isn't it? Yes, the Romans have put in the vallum and the ditch in front and the walls there, but there's no other reason really for it to be there. But then suddenly here, you can see why the engineers planned this route. And it would have been quite the task to make sure that it ran in the right line so that it lined up with what feels like the highest ridge, really, all around me. I mean, in fact, I'm convinced it is. And so we're nearing the end of our absolutely epic journey as we make our way back along the line of the wall to Vercovicium. Now, just outside Vercovicium, and actually you would find this just outside any long established Roman fort, there appeared a vicus. And this is where there would be shops, and there would be retired soldiers, and there would be civilians who were there trying to make money off the soldiers. And within that fort as well, not within the fort, within the vicus, there was also amenities, because civilians need things like a public bath, so there'd have been one of those. There would have been pubs where you could go and have a drink and even stay the night. And there also would have been shops. And it's one of those shops that houses a mystery fit for Hercule Poirot himself. I think it's the perfect way to finish our walk. And so we've arrived in the vicus. It would have laid all around in this stepped sort of ground here. It's the reason why it's quite stepped, and you can actually see stones all over the place because there are loads of buildings that just haven't been excavated yet. Now, there would have been single-storey buildings, there would have been two-storey buildings. This would have been a bustling place. There would have been shops. There would most probably have been Roman fast food, which they knew as thermopolium, which basically just means hot things. So you could go in and pick up some lunch. This is the place where the soldiers, the Tungrians who worked in the fort, would have come when they were on leave. And because of that, this is the place where they ended up falling in love with somebody and actually settling down, because when they retired from the army, which did happen, this is where they would have come to live. Their sons then would then go and take over their job in the fort, and that's how the Tungrians stayed here for pretty much 300 years. You know, there's a little shop just up here, and it's pretty interesting. So this is the place that we're looking for. Now, back in the day, there would have been houses all around this property, and there's a reason why this property has been left above the ground. As you can you see the ground level there, slightly higher up, so there would have been properties there as well. But as we make our way in, the archaeological remains tell us that this is a place where people came and went from the street, which is just over there. So this would have been the shop itself. So there maybe would have been things for sale here. Who knows, maybe people were selling foodstuffs here. But then as we make our way through into the back, this is where the owners would have lived. And this is where the story gets a little bit murky, because in the 1930s, when they were excavating this property, they found an intact clay floor from 300 AD. This is when the Tungrians would have been really well ensconced here. And beneath that clay floor, they found two bodies. It was the bodies of a man, and it was the bodies of a woman. And they know that definitely one of the two of them was murdered because the man had the tip of a knife in his ribs. How do we know they were murders? Well, the tip of the knife in the ribs is probably a clue. But the other clue is the fact that it was against the law to bury bodies inside properties for hygiene reasons, but also for religious reasons. And this was a law that was punishable by death. It was, that serious a crime. So I don't think even Hercule Poirot could solve this case. But don't you think it is absolutely fascinating that 1700 years on from when that floor was laid, so it's probably when the crime took place, archaeologists found evidence of whatever went on in what is this place now is known locally as the murder house. What an absolutely tantalising and fascinating way to finish today's walk. And what a walk it's been. What an absolutely wonderful way to finish today's walk. I've learned so much walking through a part of the world that I thought I knew so well. And we're finishing actually walking along one of the streets that lay in the Vicus, because the Vicus did even extend all the way down here. The fort lies just up there. And when you consider how much we've seen of the lives of these people that lived 2,000 years ago, but also the fact that we know some of their names, it really does start to bring their history to life, doesn't it? But then I had no idea whatsoever that Excalibur lay in Greenlee Lough. I mean, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? It's just been absolutely wonderful, and this has by far been my favourite walk of the series. But in the words of Karen Carpenter, we've only just begun. Because when I see you next time, well, I'm not going to give away too much, but all I shall say to you is Robin Hood. Hopefully that's a big enough clue. For now though, thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful walk, and I shall see you next time for more Walking the Wall.
What a walk and what a story.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That for me, I've just been destined to do that walk, and the destined walks continue because the next walk in the series is going to be like...
It's my favourite.
And then they just keep on coming now. They keep on coming. It's like, oh my goodness, talk about building to a crescendo. But what about that weather?
It was a bit dodgy, wasn't it?
It was like going from like...
It was very typically English, so... Yeah.
That is Northumberland. And that's why we love it.
Yeah, it's high up. It's that's, when you're a bit higher up, you do tend to get more weather as well.
Yeah. Just, so atmospheric, and everything about it is just, it's perfection for me. If you're looking for picture perfect, lovely quaintness, go to the Yorkshire Dales. If you want a bit more ruggedness, pop to the moors. If you want proper boys' own adventure country, head to Northumberland.
Yeah, we love Northumberland, and more people, well, I shouldn't say this, should I? But more people should visit Northumberland.
We covered that in the first episode of Walking the Wall.
Yeah, we did.
People don't go.
No, people
and please don't.
It's the least populated place.
You stay well away.
In the country. And really, we love it. We absolutely love it in Northumberland. And we always say when we're there that we feel very much at home, don't we?
Yes, it's the business. Now, look, we're very excited to announce there's been so many people since we started making this series, but also as well Walking the Dales, Walking the Moors, people wanted to sort of see a making of, a behind the scenes. Well, we announced to our Bakery Bed patrons on Sunday in our most recent pop show, and what a show that was. That was great fun.
It was great fun.
That we broadcast that live every month, exclusive patron-only show, and broadcast it live, and then you can watch it afterwards if you want to. But on that show, we talk about lots of things that are upcoming, and one of those things that's upcoming is a making of, a behind the scenes of Walking the Wall. And so you will get to see a little bit of how the whole thing is put together. We don't go into the final sort of minutiae, because that would be tedious and boring and would take an awfully long time. But what we do is we do give you a sort of flavour as to how it's all put together. But then we're not just doing a making of Walking the Wall, we're also going to do a making of Kays Cosy Kitchen.
Yeah.
And we're also doing a making of Kays Tutorials,
yeah,
which is great fun. And those are the sort of three things which people are most keen to see at the moment. But I have a feeling there might be more if people enjoy that series. That's coming in September this year, that series.
Yes.
And that'll be available to our Silver, Gold and Platinum Bakery Bear patrons. Walking the Wall's going away now for a little bit. And next time, Kays Cosy Kitchen returns. And let me tell you, she had a test run. This is an old family favourite.
Yes.
But she had a test run of it just the other day with a new exciting twist.
Yes.
And let me tell you, we approved.
It was great. Yeah.
So wait until you see what's coming.
And it's
You'd never guess.
It's a savoury. I'll say that.
With a twist.
Well, it's just an extra little something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's that extra little something which often makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, it all disappeared very quickly.
Yes, it did.
So.
And right now, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Oh, yes. You've got some things to show us.
I've got a couple of things. I bought a couple of things. I don't know why I did that.
That's our new Endy Bits sign.
Pure excitement.
So we've got Skein It Up and we've got Endy Bits.
All right. Move on. Yeah, I purchased some yarn. And I bought this yarn, but I've actually started a pair of socks in it, and I'll show it you next time. But I bought this yarn because I was watching lovely Paula, Stitched by Mrs. D, recently, and she'd knit up a pair of socks for her husband in this yarn, and she was going on about how lovely the yarn was, and I was like, well, I've got to go and have a look at that, because I hadn't heard of it. And I went and bought a few balls, and I've actually used a couple of them as prizes in one of our patron knit-alongs, and I'm about to post those out to the winner today. But the yarn is lovely, and let me tell you, it's really, really well priced. It's really economical. And it's this. It's James C. Brett's Funny Feets. I don't know if anybody's ever knit with this. So it's a commercial sock yarn. And the difference is you get 400 metres, so it's really lovely and plump. It's slightly less yardage than like an opal, for example. But it's 50% superwash wool, 25% polyamide or nylon, and 25% bamboo. Now, bamboo is a really soft and strong fibre. So it really, it feels almost silky in a way, the yarn. And it's so lovely and plump. And look, isn't this colour gorgeous? I can't wait to knit this one up. This is colour, no, they've got great names. They don't have names.
Look.
There's the colour.
But what does that look like? Funny Feet.
Oh, it does look like the ice cream.
That's amazing.
They don't make Funny Feet anymore, and this is devastating. Can everybody remember Funny Feet ice creams?
It's funny because the ice
loved them.
cream was different. I think they must have done something to it.
It was a weird sort of ice cream.
They must have done something to it to get it to hold in that shape.
Probably.
Because I think normal ice cream wouldn't have held quite like that.
No, it kind of doesn't.
Too heavy.
Doesn't really melt.
No.
It's a strange substance, but
it's like Cool Whip.
It kind of
It's
is
not
a
really
little
cream.
bit. No, it's not. Well, Cool Whip isn't cream. I don't think it's. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's real cream. No, they don't make Funny Feet anymore. And me and Bryony used to love Funny Feet. I'm like, I wish they'd bring them back. Anyway, yeah. So it's Funny Feets with a Z on the end. Yeah. So I've got this colour, and then I've got this one, which is more of just a self-striping, I think, rather than a sort of variegated-y, Fair Isle sort of look. And I've started knitting some socks for Dan with a different colour. Like I said, I'll show you those next time. And it's a lovely yarn. It's really plump. It's lovely to knit with. I've only knit sort of this much on it, but I can usually tell early on if I'm going to like a yarn. And it's just lovely. And I think I got it from 2 different places actually. Wool Warehouse do have it, but a couple of the colours they didn't have in stock. So I went to Purple Linda Crafts, and got a couple of skeins from there as well. And the price is really good. It's about £5 or £6 a ball. The most I think is £6, £5.99, but I did see it cheaper than that. How brilliant is that? You know, £5.99 and you've got 100 grams of lovely sock yarn. So thank you to Paula for recommending that, and I just thought I'd mention it because, you know, not all of us have the budgets for hand-dyed yarn, and this one is a great one. So that's that. And then I also bought a bit of fabric. I saw this recently and just had to get it to make Dan a bag. Look, oh my goodness. So I got 1/2 metre actually, because I wanted to make him a big sweater size bag, because you don't really have many big bags, do you, for jumpers?
No, one.
Oh, cause they tend to like stick out the top when they get big, don't they?
Yeah, I've only got one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a big bag, but I didn't have anything to coordinate, so I got this lovely orange. This is from Dashwood Studio and it's called Twist the range, but look how cool that's going to be.
Perfect.
And then for the inside I found this, all from Wool Warehouse. I found this, which is a grey, but can you see it's got little tiny knit stitches on it?
Perfect.
So that's going to be the inside.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Love it.
And then whilst I was on the website, I happened to see these, which are from Lewis and Irene, and it's called Rainbows, I believe. Look at the cuteness of the little tiny elephants. Now, I do have this fabric in different colours, but I loved this orangey shade. And these dots sort of coordinate. So I've got just a fat quarter of each of those to make myself a bag out of those as well. Lovely.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much it. We mentioned our summer of stitching at the start. We're putting out fairly regular posts, actually, because there's so much going on with the summer of stitching. And these posts are actually open to everyone. So anyone can access the post and you can see exactly what's going on. So I'll put a link to the latest summer of stitching update, which links you to the Moonstruck Socks course and Kays Time Knitting and the special pop show and the platinum release and all of the things. It's all there in one lovely post, so you can see everything and you can access the things that you want to access. Similarly as well, any of our Bakery Bear patrons, if you are, for example, a silver radio show listener or a bronze patron and you're feeling sad because you can't access the platinum pattern, please do remember that you can access the very first platinum pattern that Kay ever released. All our Bakery Bear patrons can access the very first platinum pattern, and that also is linked in the show notes below, so you can join in the platinum pattern knitting fun.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. What a show. Thank you so much for watching.
So much loveliness.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for a show which will feature Kays Cosy Kitchen. I can't wait. Bye.
See you soon, everyone. Bye.
Sitting and knitting, it's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery